A fox knows many things, but a hedgehog knows one important thing. It's one important thing. It's one important thing.
Welcome to the Morning Hedgehog podcast, where we explore the business ideas that shape your success. Here are your hosts, Ira Gardner and Glennis Thomas.
So, some other definitions we look at as a business, just in terms of product development, is we start out with our core product, which is really should become your standard business offering. And frankly, this becomes where you have a separate landing page for each one of these core products. Okay, you might even have a separate website for it. I know one photographer that had 5 websites for 5 different product categories, because they did architecture on one site, they did commercial product photography on another, and they didn't want to confuse their target markets. They had different target markets, different websites, or different landing pages. So that's your core product. And then your product depth is the number of sub-products offered, and we're going to see an example of this in a minute. Product depth is really about taking those same core qualities of the initial core product and applying to different target markets, different market segments that need similar or almost the identical basic skills that you have to offer. And then product width is just how many times have I developed a mature product to where I have a range of categories of work that I can do. And this is where the photographer with 30 years of experience can offer more products effectively than the photographer that's in their first 5 years. They've gone through and developed enough experience to be able to develop that out a little bit more. So here's a quick example I threw together a couple of years ago. I was really focusing, as I continued to do, on these sort of monochrome, bold, iconic portraits. And the idea is that the core product is really this idea of creating an image that conveys the authentic character of an individual and puts it in a philosophical and historical context, which is why I go for the monochrome. Just gives that historic, iconic feel to it. And you can see whether it's an individual executive portrait or it's sisters in a family portrait, there's a similar quality to these images. And you can see where it can be broken into different niche markets, as opposed to, it could be business, it could be family, it could be children. I can apply the same look as I've shown in previous episodes. You get that same look whether I'm doing a newborn or I'm doing a family or I'm doing a business portrait. There's just a particular look that's my signature style. And then you can see the packaging that goes with it. And this, I just grabbed some boutique packaging off of a website. I actually have my own boutique packaging that I do. And then the augmentation is the customer service that goes into it. And that you can plan that out from the very first phone call to here's the email that I send the day before or right after the booking. Like you develop your scripts. How do I handle my customer service? And how do I package and deliver the work? So core product is what you want to be known for. In my case, I'm really known for my bold black and white portraits that have a lot of traits in common with historic religious icons, that kind of timeless stoic quality to them. Well, what we want to do is once we've developed the core product, we want to be able to scale it out so that we can develop enough business to sustain our career. And so we start out with what are the core competencies necessary to produce this work. In this case, I'm using a high quality light with main, hair, background, and separation lighting. I'm using 5 lights in the studio to create that look. And then I'm looking at an expression and looking at micro expressions that convey different emotions. I do full retouching, different posing, etc. And so you just start really identifying, and this also becomes my portfolio rules that I use to define my portfolio of what I share. And then you develop your signature product, which is going to be my standard, my Be Iconic business portrait. But then I'm going to look at other synergies What are some other products that have the same synergy as this core product? And so I could be looking at, in my case, modeling portfolios, actor headshots, political candidates that want to be trusted and seen as wise, dating profile portraits, author book cover portraits, educator portraits. A lot of educators give guest lectures around the country, conferences, public speakers, sports team portraits. I can apply this criteria to all these different market segments and develop different markets with the same basic skills. And so this is what allows me to scale my business up, because I'm not just looking for one target market segment. I've got all these different segments, but I'm able to rinse and repeat the same basic skill sets, the same lighting, the same retouching, the same posing, the same packaging and delivery, right? And so now I've got a product depth that allows me to get some diversity in my marketing. And then I set a target price point of $600 based upon my financial spreadsheet. And so now I got to start thinking, well, what do I do to be worth that much money, right? Because I know most of my competition is charging about 200. So what do I do to be worth 600? Well, that's exciting, because now I start thinking about, well, guess what? I've got all the lights. I've got a camera. My camera can record video. I can get a microphone. And now maybe I augment by doing a short video interview that turns into a personal branding biographic sketch for my client. And I will tell you, I did this with high school senior portraits, and it was, we have these amazing tools to make mothers cry. That was a simple augmentation that only took 15 minutes at the end of every senior portrait session to do a short video interview that I could then layer a slideshow over the top. That's my innovation in the product development process. Maybe I do something like this, where I take and make a small coffee table book out of the photo shoot. This is going to cost me wholesale, $35? And yet, is it worth it as part of the $600 package? Absolutely. When I start thinking about price points, I literally could spend up to $100 on fulfilling that $600 order to maintain my profit margin. So what can I do for $100 that adds a lot of value? I can do a lot with that. I could add prints, I could do any kinds of things. And this will get into our pricing strategies, where this would be what I consider a hybrid pricing strategy, where I'm charging for my creative fee based on my time, but then I'm adding some products that are retail price markup as well. And I'm combining the two together to build a price point that communicates great value to my customer. I want it to be a win-win situation. Is that making sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And certainly I'm thinking about my own business and what I might want to do, but yeah.
Well, when I look at your work, some of my favorite projects I've been seeing lately that you've been posting on your LinkedIn is the fact that you've been seeming to enjoy doing on-location personal branding photos.
Mm-hmm.
So with thinking about the quality of light, the environment, and maybe you've settled on a particular lens at a particular aperture that gets a particular look. Like I'm so dialed in on my studio portraits, I can tell you exactly what my exposure settings, exactly what my focal length lens is, exactly what my Lightroom workflow is, and exactly how long it's going to take me to do it. The magic, and this is something that I like to communicate to anybody that's doing portraits, the creativity doesn't come from the process, it comes from the engagement and interaction with the customer. They bring the new part of it. I bring the existing knowledge and skills, they bring the new, and it's the combination that we come together to make something exciting and unique. So when I think about your work, and I've been noticing, or at least what I've been drawn to, is some of your location branding. Well, gee, I wonder that same skill set could be applied to high school senior portraits. It could be applied to modeling portfolios. Your skill sets can be applied to a lot of different market segments while still fitting within your core business of personal brand photography?
Yes, it's funny. I did do a high school senior recently, and I tried not to. It's I had photographed a woman a couple years back and her mother, that were business portraits. And so her mother contacted me about possible business portraits for her. And we've been in communication for 2 years now. And at this point, I haven't put much effort into it because it's, she's not ready for whatever, and it just isn't worth my time. But she then said, well, my son's graduating and I want some portraits. And I said, I don't do this. It's not what I do. And I think you'd be better served going to, they've got lots of people in town who do this. And, you know, they've studied this genre. They know the types of portraits that you're going to, and poses and everything that you're going to want, and the products that go with them. She's like, no, 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 I want you to do this. So I did it. And I did it in the way that I would do my headshots outdoors. We picked a park and everything. I did struggle a little bit because her son showed up and he was not happy to be there. And he was not going to smile. And this was not something that I have encountered before, because I work with adults who hire me for, you know, and they come ready for this. So that was a bit, but yes, everything else in terms of my settings and how I blend my strobes with the natural light, and the package I gave her was just, I just followed what I do for my headshot packages, and it worked out great. And she ended up purchasing even more. So it worked out really great. I think I may move into that genre later on, but I'm you know, I'm not ready for that yet. You know, I'll take these occasional ones, but I'm not going to market it. I'm not going to share it with people yet, because I don't want to start getting lots of calls or any calls on that just yet.
Well, and one of the things I'd recommend is in a genre that's so broad, such as a high school senior portrait. What I mean by that is the fact that you, I would recommend you identify what your avatar of your perfect ideal client would be, and build the product to serve that. And think about what specialty areas. For example, if I were into horseback riding and had an expertise around horseback riding, rather than to advertise senior portraits in a general way, I would focus on only senior portraits that are equestrian senior portraits.
Yes. Yeah.
Because then I would have that niche connection. So in my case, I might be better off focusing on a niche market of motorcycle riders. Because I ride motorcycles, I can speak that language, and that would be a way to add value, is to get known as being, oh, Ira the motorcycle. You know, you could be that, whatever that is. And this gets back to when we talk about augmenting a product, I like to use the expression of, we have to find our and. We have to put something with that photography that makes it special and unique. So given this quick example of equestrian senior portraits, that and is photography and equestrian, and becoming the expert in equestrian portrait. When I had my portrait studio and my father was working with me, one of our ands in product development was dog photography, because my father had been had done dog shows. He had been a breeder, and he showed Dobermans and boxers. And so when somebody wanted to do dog portraits, we were able to say, you know what, we know how to stack the animal to present most favorably. And we know the standards of judging for the breeds, because my father's been an AKC certified dog shower and breeder. Well, that's an and, right? And that's a great niche market because we know how much the pet industry, and just even the segment of dogs versus cats, there's a huge niche there. So finding your and when I first started out, my and was commercial product photography and color separations or pre-press work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how you can build a strong niche product there. And for me right now, a lot of my niche is I'm adding some video component. I'm doing portraits and videos. They're mini documentaries, if you will. Once you've identified what other potential synergistic products you could offer, your depth of your products, these are subcategories, you can start estimating what your percentage of your business you would like that to be, and start setting some sales goals based upon that business model spreadsheet that we shared on, and we have it available on our site now. I actually have a product mix in that business model spreadsheet. So as you recall, we have this great business financial planning spreadsheet that basically you put in your expenses that you forecast, your fixed expenses, your variable expenses, and it automatically computes what your annual sales need to be, your hourly rate, your day rate. And it has this section for putting a product mix in here where you can put your targeted percentages. And so if I put in there, business headshot, average sale 600, and I want 35% of my business to be there. And then I go with model portfolio, and that's also going to be at 600, and maybe that's at 10%. And then I might just put, change these around. Oh yeah, I had legacy portraits. So this would be my legacy portraits. And I can have different price points for all these, and then just change the percentage so that everything comes out at 100%. Well, that tells me how many sessions at that price point I would need to do in a given year. And now you find out real quick why, based upon my overhead expenses and my employee expenses, I might need to raise this price point up to $1,000 to get the sales targets down small enough to be manageable. And this is where, when we do product development and price point, it's like being on a rubber band. That if I am trying to have a very successful lifestyle, I'm going to be pulling those price points up, and then I'm going to have to figure out what am I going to do to make myself worth that at all those different categories. And then I've got to be realistic about how many of these sessions can I really do in a year. I know back in the day, I used to do 100 senior sessions a year. I used to do 50 weddings a year. These are high numbers. I would never want to do that again. I would rather get this family portrait up to 2,500 and drop it down to 18 a year, right? And so this becomes hand in hand with our financial planning model to be able to start designing a product. And I always go back to that question: what am I going to do to be worth that price point, to get the sales goals to a manageable number that I can do in a given year? And now I start looking at, here's my annual targets. And basically I would be at and I really like this, I'm looking for one a week, one business headshot a week, one modeling portfolio a week. And, I'm looking at monthly targets of 13 orders, 13 sessions a month. Well, that starts becoming manageable. And now I can start designing my branding, my marketing, my packaging. Everything is going towards that particular sales goal.
Well, and also, so when I do my marketing class and I talk to my marketing students, many times they don't have a business plan. And what I strongly recommend that everyone has some sort of business plan in place, because your marketing goals need to reflect your business goals. It should be, these are my business goals, And then marketing is one of the tools you use to help you reach that. But a lot of times people see their marketing goals and strategies and tactics as totally separate. And once you have a plan like what you're talking and that spreadsheet, I mean, the spreadsheet's only one part of the plan, but even from that spreadsheet, you can then say, okay, if I want one headshot a week, what am I going to do on a marketing point of view? What are my marketing plans to make that happen? And then you get into the whole marketing plan, but it really needs, it needs to start from the top.
Absolutely. And to do any marketing, I have to know what it is I'm trying to sell and how many I need to sell
Yes.
in order to
Yeah.
design the marketing. I was thinking about the fact that I used to do a lot of work with real estate agents. And what's interesting about real estate agents is they know upfront the value of what it is they're trying to sell, and they know the value on the commission going into it. So
Mhm.
I had a real estate agent that once hired me to drive 2 hours to a remote lake, rent a boat, go photograph this lake cabin from water, as well as do interior and exterior from land, and paid me to design a 4-page, 8.5 by 11 brochure with full color photographs and text that he was spending several thousands of dollars for this one marketing piece. Well, guess what? It's $1 million sell, of which he's going to make, 3 to 6% on that $1 million. So when you know how much you're selling your products for and what you need to sell them for, you also start to train yourself. What do I need to invest in my marketing and advertising to achieve those sales? They're
Mhm.
interconnected together. One affects the other.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, we're almost done for today. We've covered a lot,
Yes, we have.
as always. And I'm just trying to talk about product development. But I guess what we're trying to get across is that there's more strategic business decisions that need to be made early on. Or if you've already been doing the trial and error and you want to revise and retool, we need to go back to the beginning and start thinking strategically. And when I was doing this full time in my studios, that's what January was for. I would
Mhm.
take a nice vacation and go out of town, and I'd start to think about these things. But that's what the months of January and February were for me every year, was reimagining and figuring out how can I innovate and improve for the following year, and put a marketing plan into place that now by the time I start getting a little busy, I'm just executing the plan. I don't have to think
Mhm.
about it anymore. The hardest work is to think about it and plan strategically, but then the implementation should become more automatic. So, to wrap up this segment on product development, I'm actually going to give you an example of a recent uh, product development cycle I went through that relates very much to what I've been showing here. But basically, what I was doing was saying, hey, I've got this sort of iconic legacy portrait product. I'm interested in applying that synergistically with modeling portfolios. And so I want to show and demonstrate this whole process of product development, um, that leads to developing proof points like a portfolio, et cetera. I get a lot of questions about, well, let me put it this way. I get a lot of comments when I'm teaching business practices that photographers tend to think that business is not associated with creativity. And I will tell you that to do business well, every step of the way takes creativity. Because when you think about the definition of creativity, really is rearranging existing elements into new components, new combinations. And so when I talk about finding your and, when I talk about price and marketing, when I talk about core product and synergistic secondary products, all this is part of an overall creative process. The creative process really starts with research. And so, what is it that I'm interested in? For me, all new products, or in this case, I'm developing a secondary product based upon my original core competencies, my core style, if you will, my photographic identity of the monochrome, bold imagery, led me to want to experiment with doing model actor portfolios. And so I wanted to see what it would take to take what I was doing and apply it to actor headshots and model portfolios. And so that involved doing research. And research is this incredibly important component of creativity. And so what I did was I reached out to somebody I know, because everybody knows somebody, right? I know a guy that I went to high school with that is a well-known local actor, and I sent him a Facebook message saying, "Hey, John, I would love to do a photo session of you. I'm working on a new portfolio. Would you be willing to participate in setting up a photo shoot with me?" And of course he said, "Sure, I'd love to." I hadn't seen him in years, by the way. So Facebook's great for keeping track of people
Yeah.
that have interesting jobs, do different things. So John is a bigger guy. He's just a big, tall, bulky guy. And so I was inspired to research actors that have that quality to them that are very iconic. And so James Gandolfini came to mind. And I was also looking for some other actor shots that had that dark, low key sort of feel that I'm drawn to. And then I came across this fashion editorial photographer who's originally from Russia, living in London, that I just loved her work, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I just started doing this research so that when John came to my studio, I was able to say, "This is the kind of work that I'm interested in doing with you." And I started directing him and pulling these images out. And and this is all based upon my likes. This isn't based
Mhm.
upon what somebody else told me they needed. This is me self-initiating. This is the kind of work that I'm interested in doing. I'll tell you what ended up happening. Number one, the John totally got into the photo shoot and just loved it. John loved the work. He shared it on Facebook. He shared it with his agent. His agent sent me a message saying, "We love this work. Can I put you on my preferred provider list of actor headshots
Heck
photographers?"
yeah.
Right? And I started getting work referred to me from this actor and talent agency. And I started further developing these portfolio sessions, or these actor sessions, and just started having a blast doing this sort of cinematic storytelling, but very dramatic
Mhm.
style photography. I mean, look at these two here.
Yeah, super.
And so this whole process that I went through ended up developing into a really nice market segment for me that I get consistent work from, based upon word of mouth referrals and the fact that every time one of these actors posts on social media, I get tagged in it.
Oh, super.
So it kind of illustrates that idea of I'd rather do it pro bono at first and test
Mhm.
the market and see
Mhm.
whether or not there's a residual interest in what it is I'm doing. And this has
And
turned out to become one of my favorite types of photography to do.
oh, that's super. And then also because you're doing it in your style, then you're able to put together a portfolio of your style. And so people then hire you for that style, as
Yes.
opposed to you just start off doing it, you charge or you don't charge, but you're doing whatever that person has requested, which happens mostly in paid jobs. But having that portfolio of what your style is ensures that most of the work you're going to get then going forward is going to be in what you love to do.
I did this with business portraits. Same exact process I went through, did it with business portraits. And then the next step, by the way, once you've done your product development, the next step is to create a PDF booklet that you are able to give to prospective clients in exchange for their contact info that explains exactly what it is you do. And so what I ended up doing with my business portraits, I put this PDF booklet together. And one of the things that I share in that booklet, I'm not going to share the whole thing, it's somewhat proprietary, but one of the things that I'll just show a page from it, is the fact that I offer as part of my standard business product is I will knock out the backgrounds, and they have a choice of backgrounds. They have 8 different choices. And so when I did that, I literally, the first client that I got after that was a $1,000 job to photograph a whole group of executives and using a custom designed background based upon their brand colors. So taking it to that next level immediately turned into a significant contract because I was ready for it. I had done the product development, I'd done the research, I'd figured out my workflow, I had articulated that workflow in writing, and then I had the ability to create the proposal, send it to a prospective client, who again became aware of me because I had donated work to a charitable auction of which they saw the work, and then I was top of mind, and I got that call. And that client has turned into a regular client because every time there's a new executive, they just automatically send them to me for the headshot.
I have a PDF magazine sort of piece as well that goes through your choices, my process, the pricing as well. But I just haven't figured out how to work it into my workflow. And I've actually changed it into now a questionnaire that's part of the workflow. But I don't know, I still feel like I need to, as you know, I'm right in the middle of changing my manual workflow into 17 hats.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to put it into their system means there are some changes to my workflow that I need to make because it doesn't quite fit. But it's making me rethink, do I do it as a questionnaire or do I do it as a PDF? And, how does that work in the process? I'm not sure. So much to think about.
There is a lot to think about. I also have, I'm going to wrap up with one other thing, and that is, so I want to share with you just another aspect of this product development process is when you go through this product development, and here again, starts with research, portfolio inspiration. This is that Russian photographer living in London. I just really love the look of her photographs. So then I start gathering my own work, but then I have to be selective and say which ones really represent the emotion, the idea. And this is where I start trimming the fat. And in filmmaking, we talk about killing babies. You love all your work, but you got to get rid of some of it because it doesn't fit the brand.
Right.
And so just being able to see this, cutting it down, and then start building some messaging around it is just this process I go through. And I thought that might be helpful for folks to see that. The other thing is when we go through this product development process, which it starts with figuring out what it is we're interested in, doing research to identify what are the aesthetic approaches that resonate with me and develop my style, go through a multiple series of practice photo shoots to build a body of work, figure out the pricing, what it has to be in order to make a living from it, and then develop the marketing for it. And when you go through that core development, when you put that product in relation to your mission and you augment it to add value to it, and you develop the customer service, here's the magic thing that happens. Number one, you're excited to talk to the world about what it is you do. You can't wait to show people what you do. And you're willing to invest the money it takes to translate your product into physical, tangible products and portfolios that when I show people this book and they page through and I pull out a pair of white gloves, I mean, this is made in Italy with cut glass cover. It's not acrylic. It's just spectacular. It's a $700 portfolio. But guess what? I've made thousands and thousands of dollars by investing in myself. But I'm only confident to make that investment because I've gone through this product development process.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. Yes.
Well, that's what I have for you today.
That was excellent. I loved it. And again, we've talked about how we're here to inspire others and to teach, but I get inspired and learn from you personally as well. So you've just added so many more things to my to-do list. But it's exciting. I'm looking forward to doing the work.
Absolutely. And really, sometimes it just takes getting away for a couple days to really just make the plan, because really 90% of it is the planning stage. 10% is just the execution.
Absolutely. Yes. Well,
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Hedgehog podcast. For show notes or to submit a question or comment, please visit www.themorninghedgehog.com.